In the beginning, the Almighty One created 4 beings, 4 gods to manage 4 different tasks in the world of Lucid adventure. There was the God of War, the God of Blessing, the God of Death, and the God of Time and Space. Each would be created to manage each area. The God of War was created to oversee fights, going so far as to create arenas and tournaments to watch players fight for his entertainment. The God of Blessing would bless other players and even guilds, such as the Giga Guild, making them prosper and flourish. The God of Death most likely dealt in death. And the God of Time and Space was actually split into 3, most likely a reference to the Fates, who were 3 that could view the past, the present, and the future. These were gods that would ensure that time and space flowed normally. The gods of the game were basically our version of admins, powerful entities that could create events and items, but they were not the creators of the game. They could interact with players, and players could even voice their complaints to them, such as when BB voices 371 complaints to the gods. Eventually, just complaining about how Giga was cheating to the God of War himself. And the God of War didn't really care. And just like our normal worlds, there are bad admins. Admins that are going to help normal people out, basically helping them cheat their way to the top. Such as the relationship between the God of Blessing and Giga, and even the God of Death using Nightmare to become even stronger. Which brings us to our first point, that these gods aren't all powerful. Sure, they have godlike powers, but the gods aren't in constant control of these aspects. For example, when we see the God of Time and Space freeze time during the war between Giga and the Allies, it isn't a perfect freeze. Dark is able to listen in to the conversation. And even at the end of the combat tournaments, we see there is a perfect freeze. The system freezes, all the players freeze, even the gods freeze. So don't think of these guys as gods, think of them more as like kings. They have domain and power over their respective area. However, it will still go on even if they're not around. Which, spoiler warning, is what happens in Season 2. After the gods have perished, we still see people fighting. We still see people dying. We still see whatever God of Blessing does. And we still see time and space moving along. This aspect is even pointed out in Season 2. When Dark is talking to his personal attributes, by the way, can we give him a name, like a time pun name? I want to give him like a time pun name because I don't want to keep on referring to him as Dark's personal attributes. Anyways, when he's talking to him, the personal attribute says, because the gods might have gone, but the concept of time and space hasn't disappeared. So now we know that they're not in complete control of those powers. They're not in complete control of those areas. But let's talk about them individually. Let's start out with the one we know the least about. The God of Death. The God of Death is kind of animalistic. Sure, it might be for obvious reasons. She's the only one with a non-human kind of aspect to her. Remember that the God of Time and Space are these little eyeball people, but their true form are very human. Anyways, she has a giant animal, terrifying head thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. She's very impatient and kind of stupid. She speaks very slowly, kind of like she has difficulty talking a human language. And she always wants to kill as a simple solution. When Grandpa Dark says he needs to choose a new god, the God of Blessing offers to do it, saying like, there's no one as good as me, so might as well choose me. And Lady Death over here says she really wants to kill Blessings. However, she forgot that the system is designed to kill all of them when any of them start to fight. She also accepts the Nightmare power because she believes that she's strong enough to use it without it taking over, which fails. And Zero is able to use this idiotic move to reabsorb Death and start killing the other gods. The God of Death is more of like a caveman. Pure instinct and pure animal. But that brings us to our next god, my least favorite god, God of Blessing. The God of Blessing is a pain. He's constantly rude and arrogant. He puts on this fake smile even though you know he's cursing at you. He gives Giga an unfair advantage in most of the scenarios, and even starts to throw a hissy fit when Giga team that he bet on starts to lose. He looks down on the other gods, thinking him higher than everyone else, when his power is blessings, whatever that means. He even says to Grandpa Dark, when they ask how should they choose a new god, the God of Blessing says, wait, Why should we listen to what he has to say? I'll make this easy for you. I'll be your new god. Unfortunately, there's no one better than I am. Wow, talk about confidence. However, compared to the other gods that I have yet to talk about, Blessing isn't really fleshed out that much. He's kind of like the worst one out of the gods. He's the one you want to hate the most. Actually, he's designed more as the antagonist, even siding with Giga, the main threats in Season 1. So let's talk about the best god now, the god of time and space. Like I said before, the god of time and space is most likely a reference to Greek mythology, with the Fates, a trinity of goddesses in control of a thread of life. Sure, the god of time and space aren't that powerful, but what they're able to do is quite impressive. First, we see them stop time, which is not a perfect stop, but it's still pretty good. And we even see them transport BB and Tempest to their own little dimension, where they choose them for their bets, which I'll get to at the end, and activate and train BB's third eye, an eye that can open and close the space at will. These gods can also predict the future. However, like always, their powers are limited. Even Blessing calls him out on this, telling them, "Your pathetic fortune-telling. It's nothing but a haze when it comes to humans and their infinite possibilities." Even the god of time and space couldn't see the future when it comes to humans. They're too unpredictable. But I want to talk to how they act. They're kind of childish. Sure, they're little eye people, but they're constantly acting like cartoons characters in this war. Dashing around, making little comments. One even says, "I'm hungry," all the time, and acts goofy and aloof. Like they don't understand the gravity of some of the situations they're in. But I freaking love them in this form. I would totally get a plush if they had them. But their real form is pretty impressive too. They look the most like normal adults. However, they each have one eye. They share the power. But in the end game, when two of them die, the last one takes both of their eyes and uses it to their full power. Finally, let's talk about the most fleshed out god, the god of war. The first god to appear. And I'd wager the most important god. He first appears during the preliminary rounds. Out of all the things a god could be doing, he's hosting a party. A party to end all parties, with tons of free food and booze. War looks exactly like a child. He's small, he looks young, and often he's just being a part of the players. We see him chill with Yopai during the siege round, eating his popcorn. He invites BB up to his temple for some cake and chats. Even when BB yells at him and calls him a preschooler, War isn't really that mad. He's calm and collected. He knows what's going on, and he remembers that if they fight, they're all gonna die. But most importantly, he doesn't care. He tells Dakin, "The truth is, I don't even want to be the next god." War doesn't care about power and responsibility. He just wants to have fun. He knows that he shouldn't be the next Almighty One. He's kind of like the MCU's Thor in a weird sense. He's fun-loving and carefree, but he's not a leader, and he knows that. He knows that the next god should be someone who cares about making a change, cares about leading these people, cares about doing something productive. The only reason he bets with everyone else is for the fun of it. Speaking of bets, that's how they choose their next god, by betting on one of the teams for the PvP rounds. Each 4 gods, and Grandpa Dark, and Zero, each bet on a team. Each team is kind of a reflection of who they are. Blessing bets on Light's team, a team who believes they're superior to everyone. They're arrogant and rude and basically the villains of Season 1, which is kind of like Blessing's. He's arrogant, rude, he believes he's above everyone. Death bets on Ultimate Healer. That might not seem like a reflection at first because of robots, but remember, half the team is basically animalistic and lost their minds. They act like cavemen or animals, acting with instinct. Pure animalistic instincts. Fighting and murder, basically. Kind of like how the god of death is just pure, "I'm gonna kill you." The god of time and space bet on BB. More of a goofy team, but they are kind of like the underdog. The ones that don't seem as skilled or powerful as the others, but they have special skills that no one else has that make them stand out above the rest. Strangely enough, we don't know who War, Zero, or Grandpa Dark bet on. It's likely that Zero bet on a Giga team. I'm thinking of Team Guru, since No Name is a part of that team, and No Name is referred to as the last daughter of Zero. Weirdly enough, it doesn't make sense that War would bet on any other team. He doesn't bet on Team Dark or Team Tech, since there's a moment where the gods are saying that the fight between Team Dark and Team Tech is boring, since the two that are fighting no one's bet on. But I guess that makes some sense. Of course, War isn't really going to care who he bets on, he's just in it for the fun of it. And it also makes sense that War kind of knew that Dark might win, he just doesn't really care about that stuff. He just wants to have fun. We don't know who Grandpa Dark bet on either, which is a bit strange because he didn't bet on his own team, but it could be that he expected his team to win. And really, I want to ask, are the gods actually good or bad? I debated this during my Yopai video, since War and Time and Space are actually kind of cool, but they didn't really do anything when Giga was being terrible, or when the nightmare was spreading. They were chill and fun, like your cool uncle. But that doesn't mean they should be in charge, right? It doesn't mean that they should rule over the world. Should one of these gods have actually been the Almighty One? Which one would you want to be the god of your Lucid adventure? Also, if you have any questions about hardcore leveling Warrior that you want me to address, then I'd love to. Someone asked me to explain how rankers work, but that's not enough for one video. I might do another mystery video, doing a handful of questions that you guys have. But, like always, thank you for watching.